We're back from India now and figure out which time of the day is night and which time of the day is day. That turns out that's pretty tough when you've been on a 12 and a half hour difference. But there was still at least one half day that I haven't covered in my blog post. I'm going to do that now. So after going to Alora and Ajanta, there was one more set of caves, a little bit easier to go see, and these are the Aurangabad caves. They're not quite as glorious, but they had some pretty interesting things going on. This is a picture that I took from down the mountain so that you could look up and see some of it. Pretty picturesque. Instead of having, around 30 caves, this one has about 12, and you can get up to about 8 of them. And I was most interested in this. This is a Chaicha hall, which has the stupa shrine, but the portico has fallen off the front. And since it's fallen off the front, you can actually really see that ribbing that is made to mimic the wood on the roof there. It also has a couple of images of the Buddha. Notice there's none on the stupa itself, but that were built afterward, showing how long the caves were actually in use. It's also a good place to. Most of the caves, by the way, are slightly unfinished, and it turns out that yeah, the rock quality there is not very good. So it's a great place to go and look at what happens when you get things like in this shot, a vein of quartz running across the face and the legs of these two figures. It means that you spend a lot of time building this thing, and then you're in a certain respect stuck with the quality of the materials that you couldn't really have accounted for. Though these things were painted, so there is a chance they looked much better when they were in its situation. The only other stop we made that day was at the Bibika Maqbara, and the Bibika Maqbara is joked about as being the mini Taj of Aurangabad. It was actually built by Shah Jahan, who built the actual Taj Mahal. Shah Jahan's his grandson. For so it's Shah Jahan's grandson is building this for his mother, who is Aurangzeb, one of Aurangzeb's wives. And it's kind of easy to make fun of any of the sort of attempts at reaching the glory of the Taj Mahal, but it was actually a pretty enjoyable sort of visit. You can see just in the picture on the left that it's not nearly as sort of breathtaking right off the bat. The sort of perfect ratios that you see in the actual Taj Mahal aren't there, but it was definitely a pretty building. The gardens were really nice, and it was one of the places that one of the few places we'd gone to where it was almost all Indian tourists, and that they were, treating this place as a place to go have picnics and such. It was a lot of there were a lot of families there, so it was a really interesting day. Um, I guess that that Aurangzeb wasn't willing to put out the money for this particular tomb, and as a result, there's not a lot of marble. The domes on top of the minarets and on top of the building are in marble, and so is the very, very base. But the rest of it is sort of a lime plaster, so it doesn't really sparkle, but it is attractive. And then we had two more chances at Indian cuisine before it was time to get on a plane. The first was with our driver, who insisted that we try some roasted street peanuts. Yeah, you just sometimes can't say no to hospitality, and so they were actually really good and no ill effects whatsoever. On the right is the last meal before we got on planes to, frankly, be stuck with plane food, and it was a really nice way to sort of head out. Very relaxing, and it turned out it was a really good idea that we'd eaten a good meal, because it was a 32-hour day of travel, and it started with a little hop from Aurangabad into Mumbai, and we thought 6 hours between, no problem. No, it took us hours to get from the domestic to the international terminal in Mumbai, and 6 hours was barely enough time to get on. So we had to eat something really kind of nasty and fast foody and jump on a plane. Then we were stuck with fast food plane style for the next 24 hours at that point. So it was a little bit of a rough time. I would say if you get to the Mumbai airport, make sure you give yourself ample time if you have to make a transfer. So I wanted to take this sort of last slide and last moment because this will be my last blog post. Thus the title Epiblog, by the way. That one's for you, Dad. Um, the I wanted to take this moment to make some thank yous, and of course I've thanked the organizers of the Indie Institute and the fellows a few times, but I want to do that just one more time for providing a fantastic experience. And of course, I would like to, I'd like to thank the organizations who provided funding to make this trip possible for me. The National Endowment for the Humanities put on the India Institute as a joint venture with the Community College Humanities Association. So I'd like to really thank both organizations for a fantastic experience that will definitely affect the way that I teach and thereby affect hopefully hundreds or maybe thousands of students. I'd also like to thank the Modesto Junior College Foundation, who came up with almost all of the money it took for me to fly there and back, which was the part that the other two organizations were hoping my local school would do. So thank you so much for a much easier trip to do. And I'd like just as a couple more thank yous. I'd like to thank Professor Carter and Dr. Sarah recommendations for me. I'd like to thank Professors Chapman and Mackenzie for looking after my cats. That's pretty important stuff. And I'd like to thank my folks for picking me up at the airport. Sarah and I really appreciated that. So until the next big trip. See you next time.